them. So the answer that we would be coming up with, it has to be able to apply to all of the entries that were taking place. So do we have expressing a desire to be the writer, validate his reasoning for disliking his father, recount specific events for his life, or record blissful moments in an otherwise unsatisfactory life? Which of these is going to work for all of the entries, not just some of them?
A.
You're going A, express desire to be a writer.
B.
It's B. There was like some, no way.
Wait, isn't it B?
B. Oh, see what?
B.
D. We wait long enough, we can get C. Did you go C? Okay, good. There we go. Tommy, how come? Since you went A. For the diary entries?
Yes.
Okay. So in every single entry, does he express a desire to be a writer?
No.
Then it can't be A. We got to take that one out. If we were looking at a specific passage, specific entry, yeah, you could certainly make that statement. Zach, going to go the same thing for you. In every single entry, is he validating his reasoning for why he dislikes his father?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. George, you said D?
Yeah.
Okay, why didn't you like B then?
Because they weren't all about his father. They sometimes were about his surroundings and where he was at.
And I'm not trying to put you on the spot with this, do you recall any of the specific ones you looked at where you're going, Dad's not in this one?
For 7th of January, it's not even talking about his father. It's talking about the noises and stuff that's in his room. And it talks about his surroundings.
7th of January?
Yeah, it's like 1912.
That one's not going to work.
How is it?
Because all of the questions for, notice at the top, and I could have, probably should have said something. Following questions refer to Kafka's diary entries from 1911. So you're still going with page 93, but that one's not necessarily going to be father. Okay. So you're switching your answer.
That would be B.
All right. Shai, what do you think? Not B. Oh, now people sound confident with it.
He's not talking about why he hates his father.
Now think about this. And I would expect B to kind of be the most common response after C, or could be right up there with C. Anyone know what recount means? To recount something, and it's not to count again, as in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Could be to write down. Basically to remember. So you could remember by writing, if you're doing a diary. You could remember by simply, hey, recount an event for me when you lost your first tooth, or something kind of happened and you start telling a story. You're going to be recounting. Every single journal is going to recount or is going to narrate specific events that are coming from his life. And we know that they can be specific events because we do have specific journal entry, specific dates. For anyone who did go with C, or kind of looking at it now, even if you didn't go with C, what would be your counter argument for not validating his reasoning for disliking his father? Because his father is a very big part of the majority of those entries. Is there any of the entries or any parts where you go, but here I don't quite see it happening? You have one. And this was the one where I think we were coming up with words to describe his father, and persuasive was like one of those things, because exhausting Sunday yesterday, entire staff handed father his resignation through kind words and congeniality, being nice, and exploiting his illness, his great presence and previous vigor, his experience and cleverness. He won them back, almost all of them, in general and private discussions. Validating his reasoning for disliking his father, you could argue that with that passage, he's still not happy with it, with him, because he's talking about exploitation and all those things. But he doesn't get into this term where, and this is why you should not like my father or anything like that. That level of the argument doesn't quite take place. Recount specific events, diary, journal. What's usually the main purpose of doing those things? Because you're going to recount specific events that have happened from your life. Okay. Where do you look? And with. Okay, father does come through. This is one where he's like kind of running through from one door to the other, which we talked about. He's not happy with the noise and whatnot that's taking place, but yeah, he's not really attacking him in that one either. Again, father's a dominant figure. There's no doubt about that. But for the whole purpose for his entries, recount specific events. How about August 26th? Why is mother fearful?
D.
Okay. Everyone going B? Because you're not going to like me.
I thought C.
I think C. No. I said A. B. It's A.
C.
Wait. You're wrong. I'm gonna just go out.
That's okay. That's fine. And I don't mean this in a confrontational way. Argue with me about it, because this is where you start to. And this one is very subtle. I think question 2, not counting ones where if you don't understand a vocabulary term or just a term, I think number 2 is probably the trickiest one. Tomorrow I am supposed to travel to Italy. So A, Franz is leaving for Italy. I mean, that is something that is supposed to happen. This evening, father could not sleep for excitement and sheer anxiety about his business, which has made him ill. A damp cloth on his chest, nausea, difficulty in breathing, pacing up and down time. Mother is fearful, but finds new consolation in the fact that he has always been so energetic, he has always coped with everything, and now I tell her the trouble with the business cannot last more than another 3 months, and that everything will be fine. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So, she is certainly, you would expect to be concerned. What's causing his illness? Business problems. What, after she is fearful, you get that dash. I tell her the trouble with the business cannot last more than 3 months. That's your cue as to that's why he would be reassuring her fears, her concerns, and things like that. Part of it is going to be health, but if the business falls apart, what happens with the family? Those finances end up going down. This would be one of those where you have the choose the best answer. You can make a case for B. And so Zach or anyone else going, I'm pretty sure it's B. That's not a fault in reading or comprehending what's going on, but the subtlety would be C is a little bit more of a specific reason as to why mother's going to be upset and concerned. October 31st, what persuasive technique does Franz use to reinforce his dislike for his father? George, what'd you put for 3?
I said A.
A. Delana go.
Yesterday?
A. Yeah, who mentioned it? George did. We were talking about what are some devices that you see right away. He was saying repetition was taking place. What concept gets repeated over and over and over again? But what term? You have that hatred. A hatred for which? A hatred for my father. A hatred which? A hatred which is increased. Yeah, you have a lot of repetition. Didn't mean to cross that one out. You get a lot of repetition taking place with the whole idea of hatred. Little reminder, or just kind of like a little check, what's bandwagon mean, since we had that as a vocab term before.
To hop on.
Hop on to what?
It's like something that everyone is following.
You're following something only because, and trends would certainly be this, only because it is popular. Okay? It's popular. Circular argument.
It's been my favorite team since 06.
Circular argument, it continues to just kind of go in a circle in the sense where you support something based on the argument itself. I don't think Luke is very strong because Luke is weak. I'm supporting my argument with the argument itself. Red herring, we just had this one. Pardon? What's red herring? Vocab list 3.
That's another type of argument, right?
Well, it's a fallacy.
It's you use it in an argument to take it away from what the
You
actual-
put like
it's like a
a useless
decoy.
word in it.
It's a decoy.
Decoy or a distractor, yeah, would be taking place. We talked about you should eat all your vegetables because people are starving. That's not the real reason why mom and dad want you to eat your vegetables or whomever, but they use that as a reason. Number 4, I think after yesterday with the notes, we were pretty clear with this one. Who are Max and Luby? Friends. October 16th entry. His great presence and previous vigor is an example of, you're only looking at this part. You don't have to go back into the entry to look at it. So only at this line do you see irony, simile, hyperbole, alliteration.
I said iron.
He said irony. What'd you say? Oh, I thought your hand was going up.
I agree.
Devin? So we got alliteration, we got irony, everything was...
It's not a simile, it's not a
Wait. Is it alliteration?
What do you think?
Yeah, a little.
It can be, but it's more irony than it is
How's it ironic?
because he's not great. He's not.
But it's not.
Yeah, we're talking about father.
In a self-contained one like this, you're solely going with that part that's there. For the irony with October 16th, through kind words and congeniality, exploiting his illness with great presence and great vigor, that part is where you have the alliteration. Luke, if the question did go through kind words and congeniality, and we were only looking at that part, now you have an argument for irony, because what does it seem that Father is not? Nice, kind, all of those things. But with his presence, with his vigor, which he does have those things, the irony is not going to work. You do get the presence previous that goes with alliteration. Okay. How about number 6? Who states, he who sleeps with dogs wakes up with fleas? Not who is it about, but who states. Answer for that one, yeah, it's going to be Father. Who's he talking about? Yeah, well, you could even argue he's talking about Franz in the sense that Luvi is the dog, and Franz, if he is hanging out with him too much, is going to wake up with fleas.
50%, baby.
How about number 7? Synonym for clamor. This is coming from page 91. Racket. And if you even take a look at it, I want to write, my head is throbbing, I sit in my room surrounded by the clamor of the entire flat. If you're unsure, you keep reading, I hear all the doors slamming, at least the word racket spares me the footsteps going between them. So you certainly get the sense that clamor, it's racket, meaning it's also just basically going to be loud noises that would be taking place. 8 could be a little, 8, this part, I think 9 is a trickier one. How about for number 8? The sentence, the front door is unlatched, creaking like a catarrhal throat. Simile. George going simile. Key term would be the use of the word like. Simile.
Oh yeah, 4 for 3. Let's get it, boys.
4 for 3? We got 8 questions.
5 for 3.
5 out of 8?
Yeah.
Okay.
5 for 3. 5 for 3. Wait. No, I'm just joking.
Catarrhal, most likely, what do you think? Congested, dry, weak, strained. This one's tough, so you're good. Strained.
Is it string?
Well, I want to see what people are putting.
That's what I think.
George, was it weak?
I put door congested.
Well, keep in mind, what's this coming from? It's coming from the previous line, which is a simile. So the front door is unlatched, creaking like a catarrhal throat. So you have this comparison. If you get this one wrong, it's no fault because it's taking a tricky word. It's actually congested.
Yes. Just kidding, I picked three.
That's okay.
I'm like 5 right now.
I would consider, I mentioned to you, number 2 a tricky question. I would consider number 10 a tricky question in the sense that I think you probably narrow it down to two. So what would be one that you eliminate? So what would be one that you got rid of? Getting rid of it? Okay. Yes, positive language creates an approving tone. We would be getting rid of that one. What's another one that you would be getting rid of? Here. C, satirical language, critical tone. What's satirical mean?
Like joking
You use humor
for something important.
to criticize something. So it makes sense with that critical tone, but there's not really any humor kind of going down. So my guess is we're coming between B and D.
I'll tell you,
B? How come?
because it's more, he's like pretty much representing his father. Like in the beginning, he used repetition of hatred, so pretty much he's gonna resent someone.
Okay. So you're good with this one. You're not finding it disrespectful.
No, not morally, because it's like more of him saying it to himself. It's more not him saying it exactly to him. If it
Okay.
was more him saying it to him, it'd be disrespectful.
Okay. I like the explanation.
It's not D because like he's not really insulting.
Shh, listen up. It's not D because.
He's not like insulting.
Okay. So, and insulting and disrespectful will certainly kind of go together. The answer for this one, it is B. It is B. Bitter language. Certainly, you know, and we're taking a look again of October 20th no, I'm sorry, December 26th. October is the 31st and the 16th. Unpleasant, endless digressions, recounts the sufferings, wishes that maybe he would have talked about when he was happy, or at least kind of told us those stories. Then I would like it a little bit more. He's not coming out and as George and Angelina were saying, directly insulting, saying bad things about him. You can tell he's kind of upset, he's tired about it, and so that's where you're getting a little bit more of that bitter and resentfulness is starting to take place with it. Like, it would be nice if he would do something like this, and that's where you kind of get more of the, if he would do that, maybe we could get along a little bit more. Number 11, which characteristic most clearly defines the passages as nonfiction? So how do you know this is not a fictional account? Which of these would be D, use of dialogue? Oops. I want to go with check mark. So we got D. I think I heard C. Can fiction and nonfiction both have themes? Can fiction and nonfiction both use adjectives? Can nonfiction have a plot like fiction?
Yeah. Yeah.
Plot means setting, rising action, those turning points, conclusion.
Nice. D.
There can be details where you can still have like climactic events that would be taking place with it, but a plot is going to go with story. Dialogue, you certainly can have dialogue in a story. We certainly have dialogue here. You know, he who sleeps with dogs wakes up with fleas and things like that. But you're not going to have it, and I think a key word to kind of look at, Shai, would be consistent. You could have an entry where, yeah, there is maybe a little bit more of a story to it, but then that plot's going to change when you start getting to the next entry and the next entry and the next one. Throughout the passage, Franz's father could best be described as B. What's belligerent mean?
I say overwhelming because he's always expecting things from me.
Belligerent? I think it's overbearing.
Belligerent would be if you're like always argumentative, you're always like kind of, you're trying to start a fight all the time.
That sounds A.
Franz's father, best one I would say, overbearing. Strong personality, always trying to influence.
I'm back at 50%, boys. Let's get it.
Great, I got this one right.
Where'd you go?
C.
This morning my father reproached me for not caring about the factory. Is it an opinion that the father reproached him?
No, we're not caring about the
Yeah,
value.
not caring. He doesn't know. He just thinks that. I said D.
I think it's E. I think it's one of them.
Friggin' nuts, man. I'm quitting school now.
Dropping it.
14.
Yeah.
If here, hold on. Luke, take a seat, please. Please take a seat. Check your scores. If you were definitely 9 and higher, that is considered passing. Now, I don't want to make it sound like because you did the notes yesterday, that is why you passed, and so you should all thank me. That's not the case, because you were the ones coming up with the information. But, listen up. If you take your time to read it, if you take your time to think about it, if you take your time to go through all those steps, you can certainly figure it out. It is okay if there are questions that stump you, because going through the proper preparation and whatnot, that should be able to get you ready to take care of the questions that you can get. And that you certainly should be able to get. And that extra planning and preparation, some of those questions that maybe you might not always get, can certainly come through with this one. The quiz part itself that you took, the questions handout section, the handwritten notes, those will go in the notes section. Monday, we're going to talk about metamorphosis, so come in ready to ask questions. Have a good weekend. Just part one. Just part one.
Mr. Penn,
Or just read it.
Pardon?
You have to do anything with it or just read it.
Read it, but like, yeah, if there's places where you're kind of stuck or confused, be ready to talk about it.
Alright.
But you're just reading, that's the assignment.
I lied. I lied right to your face. I said this might be the last.